Hi there, this is Dave Litton from the Projex Academy, and a warm welcome to my PRINCE2 2017 Measures of Success. Now this is a new section added to the latest PRINCE2 2017 manual, so it's important you understand these new and enhanced aspects. That said, let's get stuck straight in. First up, project success criteria. Now, project success criteria are both qualitative or quantitative measures by which the success of the project is judged. As you will know, qualitative refers to subjective data, whereas quantitative gives you firm measures. Now, project success criteria will be used throughout the project, but particularly it will be measured at the completion and handover of the project's main products. So what exactly is project success? Well, it is defined as the satisfaction of stakeholder needs and/or requirements, and is measured by the success criteria as identified and agreed at the start of the project. So you would want to start working on this during the starting up a project process. So this criteria would normally be included within the project brief. And what sort of information do you want to base project success on? Well, is it the realized business benefits? Is it the project being delivered to time and budget? Is it that the specification or requirements have been met? Maybe it's the fact that the customer's satisfied, or, for example, increased productivity. You can see by these 5 simple examples there could be many more, and it's important therefore to decide how exactly we wish to measure project success. If you ask the project manager, he or she would probably say, oh well, it's meeting time, cost, quality and scope, etc. And that's fair and reasonable. Whereas if you ask, for example, other stakeholders, they might say that project success is no disruption to business as usual as the project delivers the change. Yet again, if you ask the executive of the project board, they would most likely be focusing on benefits realization because, of course, they own the business case. So agreeing product acceptance criteria, which, as you know, is first included within the project brief, within the starting up a project process, but then almost certainly refined in the initiation stage and quite possibly throughout the delivery stages. And that would certainly apply for any changes. So what are the success criteria in both managing and planning projects? I'll refer to them here as success factors and key performance indicators. More of that in a minute. So these can be used as a benchmark for issues and change requests, for the impacts as a result of issues and change requests, and to drive informed decisions. They can also help on setting up realistic objectives in the first place. Yet again, they can help prioritize and manage planned deviations in terms of time, cost and quality. So if a success factor is defined in terms of being on time, then clearly that would be the first priority, and then you'd have to prioritize cost and quality, just as an example. They're also helpful in justifying the business investment in the first place. So the PRINCE2 business case, along with its investment appraisal, would be helped by identifying and harmonizing with any success factors and key performance indicators. They represent stakeholder agreement on project success and how it's measured, so there's no ambiguity here or difference of opinions. They can be used at project handover and closeout, plus also at benefit reviews to demonstrate project success or indeed otherwise. They should be developed and agreed at the same time as the business case. That ties in with the point I've made up here, because of course they help justify the business investment. And finally, they can be used mainly by the project manager when tracking progress and status reviews, and could be included within the project manager's regular highlight reports up to the project board. In addition, of course, to being used at an end-stage assessment. So you'll already be familiar with the acceptance criteria within the PRINCE2 manual, and it forms part of the project product description. So acceptance criteria define, and here's the key point, measurable terms, the characteristics required of the final product within your PRINCE2 project to be acceptable to both customers and users. You'll recall also that there is a term called customer quality expectations, and these can often be ambiguous, which is why they are refined into acceptance criteria in measurable terms. And as I've mentioned in the previous slide, project success can be defined by making sure that all of the stakeholders have a common agreement on what the acceptance criteria is. Now, the acceptance criteria may be focused on the end product itself, and here's a few examples. Performance levels, appearance, capacity, reliability, availability, and so on and so forth. And that would be quite reasonable. On the other hand, they may be as well, or in place of, focus on project-related information, such as development costs, running costs of the end product when it's passed to the operational area, key target dates being met, and or major functions. This refers to business as usual, in other words, the operational area within your own organization or a customer's. So be clear, product acceptance criteria are different to project success factors. So let's have a quick peek at those too. Now, success factors are management practices that, when implemented, and here's a key point, will increase the likelihood of success of a project, or if it's part of a program or a portfolio. Now, success factors will not guarantee success. I know that sounds strange, but if they are missing, the probability of project failure will increase. That's an important point. Just get that inside your head. In other words, a success factor is a step in the right direction, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that alone will guarantee project success. But certainly if they're missing, it's highly likely your project will go off track and failure will be inevitable at one point or another. Let's check out some common project success factors. Project objectives, you'll be familiar with that. They must be clearly defined and consistently followed throughout the project. What about project personnel? Well, everyone involved, the project management team, along with the specialist team, should be competent, which means they have the right skills, the right amount of knowledge and experience. Support from above. Thankfully, due to PRINCE2, with the roles and responsibilities, the project board will normally give you this, but it may need to go higher, perhaps up at corporate or program management level. Resources. This is above and beyond human resources, although it includes it. Aspects such as time and money, material and equipment, tools and so on and so forth must be sufficient. And with regard to the project personnel, it's not enough just for them to be competent. They need to be motivated and be striving for success. Communication. Appropriate communication channels must be established. Now with PRINCE2, you can't go wrong there, because during the initiation stage, part of the project initiation documentation, you have the communication management approach. And this addresses both internal and external communications, while laying out exactly how the project management team will send information to and receive information from the wider organization involved with the project. And controls. Yet again, PRINCE2 comes to the rescue here. They must be in place. This will include aspects such as milestones, plans, approvals and reviews. PRINCE2 2017 describes exactly how you need to set up the project controls. And these work both at project board level and at project management level. They will include aspects such as management stages, how issues are captured and analysed, and of course the use of tolerance, just to mention a few. So what about measures of success? Let's check a few out. Now, project status can be measured by time, cost and quality, and you would still want to do that. But it is best to identify what's known as key performance indicators or KPIs. So let's now look at a few. Now, in these modern times, you might be feeling that there's far too much measurement going on. We only need to look at our schools to see that our children are measured every which way but loose. So it's important with projects, similarly, that the number of KPIs should be balanced to create only the level of information that is necessary and sufficient for the project to be successful. A KPI balance, therefore, is needed between both qualitative and quantitative measures. So therefore, a KPI balance is needed between several aspects. First of all, qualitative and quantitative measures, something called leading indicators and lagging indicators, and project inputs and outputs. I'll explain these right now. So let's look high level at a project time frame. We'd expect from its start to beginning, there would be KPIs being measured at key points. So what's the definition of an objective? Well, it's what the project needs to achieve, whereas key performance indicators are the measures that indicate whether or not progress is being made towards achieving those self-same objectives. So I mentioned lagging indicators. What are they all about? Well, as is suggested, these are measured after the event. They measure the performance that follows from the occurrence of events and therefore track how well the actual performance measured that which was expected. So leading indicators, as you might have guessed, measure the performance towards the events to track if they are on course to achieve the expected performance. So I guess you could see lagging indicators as reactive and leading indicators as proactive. Now these days, there's plenty of systems and techniques and tools to help you measure success, and you've probably heard the term project dashboard. You could use any one of these, often software, to track project progress using typically graphical representations that can show key performance indicator status. They might be pie charts, they might be histograms, and so on and so forth. And measures of success should be used, of course, throughout the project to measure directly the project performance against the project success criteria. You've almost certainly heard of SMART, in that every measure you use should be specific, in other words, unambiguous, measurable in some way, accountable, so you know who is accountable for it. They should be realistic, therefore achievable, and timely or time-bound. So each key performance indicator should match each of the criterion measured here. And as you now know, they are measurable indicators used to report progress, and if you've done it the SMART way, they are clear and ambiguous because they are chosen to reflect the true success criteria. And like I say, these days there are plenty of tools out there. If you check, there's project dashboards that can take all the information you need and present it as an easy to scan visual aid. And to remind you, project success factors are those that when present are most conducive to project success, and critical success factors are those that if they weren't there would cause the project to fail. So let's quickly touch on managing project performance from the project manager's perspective. They need to be able to handle, juggle, and prioritize many factors in order to successfully deliver the project. To give you an example of some of the performance metrics, it might be how much the project has spent, is the project ahead or behind schedule, are the products meeting their specification, in other words, are the quality checks being successful, and are they being approved and authorized? How many delivered products are within scope? And is the amount of risk on the project still acceptable? Do you remember risk tolerance or risk appetite? And how much value, these are the benefits, has the project delivered? As you will know, PRINCE2 acknowledges the fact that not all projects have to be finished before benefits can start being realized. Within each of the management stages, you could have products or parts of products being passed to business as usual, where benefits could start to accrue while the project is still ongoing. And as you will certainly know, PRINCE2 should be tailored. And the recommendation is to start simple, then build up, justifying as you go. Now, tailoring is a large topic, and I don't intend to cover it here. But just thinking about the PRINCE2 measures of success, they should certainly be taken into consideration when carrying out PRINCE2 tailoring. And the PRINCE2 manual makes quite clear that there are 6 aspects of project performance that need to be managed: benefits, scope, cost, quality, time, and risk. The important thing to remember is that all of these interact. If you change the scope, you'll almost certainly be modifying the cost and time, and that may cause extra risks or reduce risks. So every time you change any one of these, it's almost certain that at least one of the others will also change, and hence you'll need to manage them. The way in which you would do this is with discussions with management throughout the project, and that these constraints, because clearly time would be a constraint, the maximum risk would be a constraint, and so on, need to be prioritized. It's not good enough simply just to choose, for example, time and cost for tolerances, without due consideration of all 6 project performance aspects. And as I've said, they all interact. So whenever you're planning your project in the first place, be aware of that. And if any change requests are received during the project, you would need to examine these 6 aspects to see which of them change, and therefore determine accurately what the impact of any such changes are. So as a means of summarizing this, what is it that we actually wish to control? Well, costs. The project has to be affordable. Now, a budget may be suggested, but as you well know, between that point and the end of the project, there are many factors that can lead to overspending. And to take the positive spin on it, there are often opportunities that can arise in order to cut costs. For example, new technology emerging midway through the project. And of course, a budget may be suggested, but it's the project manager's responsibility to come up with a realistic and achievable project plan, which will identify what the budget needs to be versus what may have been offered. And at least it's a point for negotiation to move forward and to get agreement on what those costs can and should be. Next up is time, of course, closely linked to costs. This is the most common variable. Most of the projects I seem to have ever been involved with, they've had a fixed end date. Often that might be some senior manager's wish rather than anything realistic. But, however, timescales are important, and it's therefore vital to agree them at the beginning of the project and include time-based controls throughout the project. Next up, quality. The end product of the project must work. That's as simply as I can put it. Now, in PRINCE2 terms, this means the project's products must be fit for purpose. Scope, that's what's included, what isn't. This defines what the project will deliver. This, too, must be agreed by all stakeholders. Otherwise, we can't control something that hasn't been agreed by all concerned. The project manager, therefore, must be clear of what is, and probably more important, what is not within scope. Because if these ideas creep in, they will, of course, cause delays and overspends and uncontrolled change. The infamous scope creep, which I'm sure we've all heard about. And benefits, of course. These are the reasons why the project is being done and clearly articulated within the project's business case. Therefore, the project manager must understand the purpose of the project as an investment and ensure the deliverables are consistent with achieving the desired return. This is where the investment appraisal part of the PRINCE2 business case comes into play. And the key document called Benefits Management Approach will lay out exactly how and when these benefits are to be realised, who should be involved, what measurements will be used, and so on. And finally, risk. Getting back to what's known as risk tolerance. How much risk are we prepared to accept? The project board's risk appetite will have a large bearing on this. And can the amount of risk be managed and controlled? This, of course, is where PRINCE2 risk responses will come into play. So well done. I hope you enjoyed this brief overview of the PRINCE2 measures of success. Well, that brings us to a close. Thank you again for your time and attention. You are now up to speed with the latest PRINCE2 2017 measures of success. And if you want to become a PRINCE2 practitioner right now, hop on over to my website, www.prince2primer.com. On behalf of myself, Dave Litton, and my business partner, Nick, we both wish you all success with your continuing PRINCE2 and project management career. So, bye for now.